but I'm glad I made it.
Okay, here's Chandru. Let me just bring him over real quick. Okay. Did he pop in somewhere?
All right, Eileen, you want to read?
Okay. Sure. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and mailing to the officially designated newspapers lists of the annual meetings indicating that this meeting would take place on Monday, February 1st, 2021 via Zoom webinar. Notice of this meeting, as well as relevant Zoom information and application materials, were also posted on the Millburn Township zoning page. Craig Pletner,
Here.
Jody Sharma,
Here.
Joy Siegel,
Here.
Steve Toger,
Here.
Wolfgang Tutoris,
Here.
Amy Lawrence,
Here.
Sanju Harjani,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jessica Glatt. Jessica? You're
Hear
muted.
you.
We can't hear you.
She's not muted, we just can't hear her for
Can't
some.
hear her. Chairman Joseph Steinberg.
Here. All right, thank you, Eileen. Two things. First of all, I want to read something to the board. A frog goes into a bank and approaches the teller. He can see from her nameplate that her name is Patty Whack. Miss Whack, I'd like to get a $30,000 loan because I want to take a vacation. Patty looks at the frog in disbelief and asks his name. The frog says, "My name is Kermit Jagger. My dad is Mick Jagger, and that it's okay. He knows the bank manager." Patty explains that he will need to secure the loan with some collateral. The frog says, "Sure, I have this," and he produces a tiny, tiny elephant, about an inch tall, bright pink, and perfectly formed. Very confused, Patty explains that she'll have to consult with the bank manager, and she disappears into a back office. She finds the manager and she says, "There's a frog named Kermit Jagger out there who claims to know you, and he wants to borrow $30,000 to take a vacation. And he wants to use this as collateral." And she holds up the tiny pink elephant. The bank manager says, looks back at her and says, "It's a knick-knack, Patty Whack. Give the frog a loan. His old man is a rolling stone."
Don't quit your day job, Joe.
Eileen, you want to sing it for us? No, okay. All right, listen, guys. Remember, this is directed to members of the board. There are always going to be changes when personnel on the board change, and especially when the attorney for the board changes. And I know that most of you know that over a period of years, we've had situations where resolutions, memorializing resolutions, have been recommended to be recorded in the office of the Register in Essex County against the title to the property in question. And I spoke to Rob Simon, who said that it was his practice not to do that, and that boards that he's represented don't do it. And I called Eileen Davitt and I asked her what her experience was. And she said, well, some lawyers are very much in favor of recording resolutions of approval, and others are very much against it. And I called Rob back, and we had a conversation. And this is under the heading of you can never be too old or too experienced to learn something new. And we talked about the case that will be memorialized tonight, the Tischauer case from the last hearing. And I said to Rob, I don't think that we can get involved in imposing this obligation as a condition on the Tischauers because it was never mentioned during the course of the hearing. And Rob said to me, and Rob, you tell me if I'm going off base here. He said to me, well, think about this, Joe. Suppose after the Tischauers get the approval of the board to put that front yard fence in, they sit around one day and they're talking about it. And they're talking about the fact that a condition is they've got to put those trees in and keep the trees up and keep them conditioned so that the fence will not be seen from any street. And finally, the wife says to the husband, you know what? This is getting to be way too expensive. Let's just put in one of those electronic fences, and that'll be effective in keeping the dog in the backyard. And we won't have to split the backyard. And they never put the fence in, and they never put the trees in. And then they go to sell the property in 5 years, 10 years, and the buyer's lawyer calls the title company and gets a title report. And the title company comes back and says, there's this condition that was imposed on the property by the zoning board in Millburn. And the buyer's lawyer says to the seller's lawyer, has this condition been adhered to? The seller's lawyer says, I've never heard about anything like that. Let me talk to the sellers. And the attorney calls the sellers and they say, well, yes, we know that that condition was imposed and it was recorded down in Newark, but we never put that fence in. We never put the trees in. So there's nothing for us to do. We don't have anything to do to adhere to that condition. And you can tell, I'll stop there because you know what's coming up. The lawyers figure out a way to close title anyway, and the lawyers figure out how to get rid of that condition for the purposes of the closing. And there are going to be lots of lawyers' fees involved that'll have to be paid by the buyer and the seller. And by the way, it is not clear to me that this board has the power to tell the Register of Essex County to remove that condition of record. And my guess is that down in City Hall or County Hall in Newark, the people in the registrar's office don't know the answer to that either. So they have to call the attorney for the county, who may or may not know the answer and may have to do the research also. So I then started thinking about it after Rob and I hung up. And I thought, gee, there's another possibility too. And that is that the fence goes in and the trees go in, but 2 or 3 or 4 owners later, they don't have a dog. And they say, what the hell do we want with that fence? We don't have kids. We don't care about football games in the backyard. Let's take the fence down and let's take the trees down. We don't need them. And they do that. Same thing happens. They go to sell the property, and this old condition that at this point is 30, 40 years old, Rob Simon is no longer in practice, Joe Steinberg is long since gone. Eileen Davitt is no longer, yeah, she's out of here. Yeah, and now the buyer is faced with this condition that means absolutely nothing to the property. How do they get rid of it? How do they close title? Same thing. The lawyers figure out what to do, but there are lots of lawyers' fees involved. And I said to myself, you know what? Maybe Rob is really onto something here. Maybe this idea of imposing these conditions, and one of them being to record the resolution of approval, the memorializing resolution down in Newark, is really a bad idea after all. So I'll stop there and say that, Rob, if you have anything to add, by all means, please do.
Yes, let me just make one, what I think is a very important caveat. There certainly will be development applications where it would be appropriate, frankly, as a condition of approval, to impose a deed restriction on a particular property. So for example, if you're going to have a subdivision and the developer says, I will never subdivide ever again, or re-subdivide, and we would say, fine, that's a condition of approval, but we'd want that incorporated as a deed restriction so that that would run with the land, and that would be binding on, successors and assigns, of course. And that would be a great example of a condition that should be made a matter of record. But very oftentimes, a lot of approvals with resolutions and conditions may not be necessarily appropriate or even acted upon by the applicant. There's plenty of applications that get approved for developments, variances and whatnot, and then the property owner decides, because they run out of money or any other reason, not to proceed with their development. So that's just my personal recommendation in terms of how I've advised boards over the years.
Thank you. And that's a knick-knack, paddywhack. Okay, now we have on tonight's agenda a couple of memorializing resolutions. The first one is a very, very long and complicated one that went through at least two.
You want to do the minutes first, Joe?
Pardon me?
We have two sets of minutes. You want to do the
Oh,
minutes?
we have the minutes. Yeah, let's do those first. Thank you. All right, the first set of minutes are the minutes of July 21st, 2020. I have to say this now. Anyone who's new to the board, was not on the board on December 21st, 2020, cannot make a motion, second motion, or vote on the approval of these minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of December 21, 2020? Is there a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, raise your hand so I can see them.
Aye.
Thank you. That looks to me to be, let me check the other folks. Everybody's hand up, please. Thank you. That's unanimous. The second set of minutes are the minutes of January the 11th, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of January the 11th, 2021?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Jessica just seconded that, but it doesn't look like her microphone's working. So I will second it if you need it. If you need audio, I'll second it. But I said I think Jessica's having some technical
Who made
difficulty.
the motion? I missed that.
It
Well,
was actually Did Wolfgang make it or Joy? I heard two voices.
Joy,
Oh,
No, so Jessica made the motion first, and then I made the motion also,
okay,
but Jessica's audio isn't working.
okay.
Jessica, can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Yeah, no, I can't hear her.
Okay. So the motion was made by Jessica, yes?
Well, yeah,
Yes. And it's seconded
by Craig.
by who?
I seconded.
Craig.
By Craig. All in favor? Hands raised, please.
Indicating. all-
Unanimous.
Jessica's
sorry.
logging back in.
Did you say something, Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted the record to reflect that all hands were raised, since we're not doing it in a voice vote.
Thank you.
Let's wait for a second, because I think Craig just said that Jessica's trying to log back in.
Great. Okay, now we're going to go to memorializations. We have the memorialization of New Jersey Energy, which went on for months. And I would hope that everybody had an opportunity to read the second draft of this 27-page memorializing resolution. Are there any further additions or corrections to this memorializing resolution in New Jersey Energy Corp? Steve? Is there, you lit up, Steve. That may just be the snow. I don't know. Okay, is there a motion to approve the memorializing resolution as it was ultimately corrected and worked over by our former attorney, Gail Fraser?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And who is that? I'm sorry.
Joy.
Joy? I'm having trouble getting everybody on the same screen. Is there a second?
I second it. Steve?
Craig Plattner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. All right, thank you. Now, the second memorializing resolution was the first case we heard in January. It is calendar 3766, Justin and Jenna Tischauer, 472 Long Hill Drive. This memorializing resolution was prepared by our new attorney. Are there any additions or corrections on that one?
I've never
Is there
seen it.
a-
So,
You've never seen
no, I looked through all my email. I've never seen it. So I'll have to abstain.
I don't think I got it either. I had the same issue.
it? I know I got the first one. I don't think I got the second one.
Yeah, I had made all the corrections that were requested by the subcommittee, and I sent them out also to Eileen, but I don't know if it was ever distributed to the entire board.
I know I didn't distribute it because it's typically I never do. So it's
So-
just I get the new system down. So no, I didn't forward a copy. So it's
Okay, so
possible that.
I think that the best course of action here would be to delay the memorializing resolution to the first meeting in February, which is when, Eileen?
March 1st.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said February. I meant March. March 1st. So let's delay that until everyone's had an opportunity to
Okay.
read the second draft of that Tischauer resolution. Okay. We should now turn to the applications. The first application on the original agenda was 10 Alexander Lane. You folks may remember this was a matter that was actually heard by the board, and there was some discussion after the resolution, the matter was presented, and the matter was continued from December the 7th. At the request of the applicant, it's now carried again, this time to March 15th, 2021. All right, the second matter on tonight's agenda under applications, as a matter of fact, I might skip ahead and say that the last matter that is listed on your first agenda was 340 Millburn Avenue. That was New Singular Wireless, and that matter has also been carried, this time to March 1, 2021. All right, going back to tonight's matters, which will be heard, there are three of them. The
Mr.
first-
Chairman, just to confirm that for both of those matters that you just announced were carried, should make it clear as to whether any further notice is going to be required of the applicant.
There is no further notice required.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, I'd just like to make a comment for calendar 3776-20, the matter that is being carried over to March 1st. I would like to recuse from that matter.
That's the matter of 10 Alexander Lane.
No, the 340 Millburn Avenue.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's calendar 3776-20, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much, Jody.
Yep.
We're going back now to calendar 3773-20, 9 North Road. A. Nakao and R. Kem at 9 North Road in Short Hills. Is there anyone appearing on that case tonight?
Yeah, they're here. Tim Classy,
You want to bring Tim Classy in, please?
he's here.
Let me go and look at my second screen. I see his name, I don't see him.
Yeah, I don't know why. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. We cannot see you.
Maybe I messed up, and came
Make
in.
sure your video's turned on.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. No, it's not. It's not. I got it.
There you go.
Sorry. Is my client in?
Yes, they are.
They're
Okay.
not, we can't see them though.
I don't see him.
Well, they were on video and then they disappeared. They're here though.
Hello?
I think they turned their video off.
Oh, he said to me his screen froze.
Okay.
Just
Oh.
texted me.
All right, Tim, do
Yes.
you want to proceed?
Yeah.
Let me swear him in.
Wait,
Rick,
where is your client here, Mr. Classy?
My client is, I think, trying to enter.
Wait, hold on, I'll bring them over again.
Okay. Like,
Hello?
Reed?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got to turn your video on.
Sorry, it's technical.
No, just your video.
I did, but it's not responding.
can't hear him either.
Now we can't hear him.
Oh, I can hear him.
I can't hear him.
Well, we can't hear him.
Huh.
Mr. Klesse, can you present this case without them?
Yes.
On your laptop?
So I guess if at a certain point in time, if the testimony of the applicants are requested or desired, then we can swear in those witnesses at this time. So for now, Mr. Klesse, if you would just raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening, the whole truth, the truth.
I do.
Okay, please state your name and your affiliation and your address, please.
My name is Timothy Klesse. I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, and my office is at 38 Chatham Road in Short Hills.
Is anyone? Yeah, it's getting an echo.
Yeah, I don't know
hearing
why.
echo.
And Rob, could I Mr. Harjani is not on video right now.
Wait, I'm sorry, Eileen, I couldn't hear that.
The echo's very bad.
Yeah. Our alternate, Chandru Harjani, he is not on video now. Does he need to be on video in order to be participating in the meeting?
He does not have to be on video to listen, but if he has any areas.
Okay.
But somebody's got to kind of mute or something because the echo is pretty bad. Mr. Klesse, I wonder if it's your clients that are having an issue
Yeah.
with theirs.
I can.
Just have them mute.
I can. I asked him to mute.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Okay, can you hear me okay now? Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Eileen, try, see how you sound.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Well, they're gone now. I don't know what happened to them, but they left.
All right. If they come back, I'll.
You want me to ask him to phone in?
If they're going to be providing testimony, they need to be seen.
Be seen. Oh, okay. I'll ask him what he's doing, okay?
So you're sending him a text, Mr. Klesse?
Literally, I'll just call him. Hey, Reed, what's going on over there?
I'm just thinking it's the meeting back in right now.
Okay. Eileen, he thinks you may be able to see him now.
Okay, hold on.
Hello? Hello?
Can hear you. Can't see you.
I'm sorry, the video is just not working.
Could you maybe do it on your phone? If you did it on your phone, the video would come up.
No, I don't think it will.
Could you go get your laptop and do it on your laptop?
We have audio, so you can proceed that way, can't you?
He can proceed and listen in, but the way the administrative code provision that's applicable to land use board hearings, NJAC 5:39-1.7 provides that you can have a remote public meeting of a land use board with one or more public hearings, which can be broadcast by video as well as by audio. But any individual giving sworn testimony at a public hearing held during that remote meeting shall appear by video in addition to audio. So that's why I suggested that they can certainly listen in, but if they're going to be providing sworn testimony, then they need to appear by video.
We're trying to dial in through another machine. If you just bear with us for a moment. Is it working?
If you would like me to, I can start and then they could come in when they're ready.
Well,
If that makes sense.
Well,
why don't you start and we'll see if it makes sense.
Okay. Maybe do I need to be qualified?
Yes,
I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey and also New York, and been licensed for approximately 25 years. My license is in good standing. I've appeared in front of this board on numerous occasions and many other boards throughout the state and the tri-state area.
and Mr. Klesse, your license has not been suspended?
No,
it's in good standing today.
yes,
Your qualifications as an architect are accepted by this board.
okay, thank you.
Proceed.
The site is 9 North Road. It's a two-story colonial that's really up on the top of a hill and a little bit cocked on an angle to the street. Okay. Our proposal is really to add a garage to the left with a family room above and a master bedroom suite above that. Presently, the house has no garage. Eileen, I'd like to share my screen if I could.
Please do.
Do you give me permission to do that, Eileen, or do I?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, maybe she did already. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you can just do it. I don't need to give you permission. You just share screen. There you go.
I'd like to first show you the site, right? This is 9 North Road. You can see how I was saying it's up on the hill. This,
Mr. Klesse, I'm sorry, are these photos or whatever you're going to be presenting, are they part of the application packet?
no, I have 4 photos that are not in the application packet.
All right, so why don't we, do you intend to make these part of the record? Because if you do, we should mark them.
Yes, that's fine. And I can send them over, later tonight. Should I call it A1?
Yes.
Okay, it's a collection of 4 photos that I took myself probably about 6 months ago. This is the front of the house. The addition that we're proposing is on the left in this area. The present driveway comes up on the left side, and we are really leaving the driveway exactly where it is. I guess I can't, I got to go back and come out again, I guess, for the picture. Sorry. If I come around to the back of this house, there's a mudroom, little link between the primary building, which is on the right in this picture, and the former garage, which is on the left. Now, this former garage was maybe 25 years ago enclosed into a family room. But where these two windows are, that actually at one point in time was a garage door. The third photo is the site where the garage is going. Now I'm back on, if you were looking from the street, on the left side of the building with the fireplace coming up, there's a patio there. Our intent is to remove the patio and dig the garage into the basement area, extend the first floor into an office, kind of, I'll just call it a sort of a family room, but really an office space. And up on the second floor to create the master bedroom suite. My final photo is just really another shot of that same angle. I just wanted to get a better sense of the patio and the two French doors that are going from the existing living room out into this, into our proposed space. I'm gonna go right into my drawings. My drawings are exactly the same as the drawings that you have in front of you. And I'd like to blow it up a little. Okay, on the left is my site plan on my BOA 1 sheet. And I'm just gonna follow this with the cursor that I come up the existing driveway, and presently the driveway continues all the way up. And you can see that right where I just ran the cursor into was the former garage. And that was the second photo I showed you. And our intent is to stop the driveway in that area, remove that paving, come up, and then turn a right and come into the garage here on the basement level. So it does a couple of things. The garage door itself is not visible from the street. What I was saying before about the angle of the road related to the angle of the building, this garage is actually even a little more concealed than normal. So everyone gets a sense of what's going on. From this front corner of the building to the property line is about 90 feet. It's I'm very far away and up the hill. That's what allows us to come in at the basement level. The natural grade is at basement floor, right where the cursor is. So we've added some retaining walls on this property line to the left, but that was really just to level the site. The natural grade really allows me to come in to the garage at this level. I'm gonna skip over I'll just show you quickly the basement plan. I've rotated the site 90 degrees. So I'm coming up the driveway. I turn a right into the new garage. You can kind of get a sense of the zoning issues that are occurring here. And I was hoping I could zoom into this a little bit. Yeah. My rear yard setback is required to be 33 feet. And that triangle that I'm kind of indicating right there, I'm going to say it's about 7 feet by 6 feet, a triangle, is the violation of the rear setback. That's one of the variances tonight. The side required is required to be really 28 feet for a garage that's facing to the side lot line. And we're in violation of that because I could only get it to 25.14 feet. It's not an issue for us in this case because if you can look at the balance of the property, the site is actually getting bigger back here. So I have a lot of room to maneuver a car to turn into the garage, coupled by the fact that I made a single garage door so that you can get both of the cars into the garage. But it is actually a violation of this small triangle, which I'm going to say is about 3 feet in the front, about 6 feet in its length. And that is really my garage door facing the side yard setback deviation. And then the final one is the side combined, right? That's my 2 side yards. And I just have to get back a little bit to show you. Well, I guess I'm going to take you for now to the site plan, right? I have no side yard setback up in the upper right-hand corner where I'm bringing the cursor around. I think it's 4.5 feet. I'm not 100%. I think it's about, it's 4.1 feet. So between that setback and my 25.14, I have a side combined violation of 4.76 feet or 3.3%. I just want the board to realize that the visual setback for this house is really from the front corner where I have the cursor now to the property line, right? And that setback is, I think, 15 feet. And if those were my 2 setbacks that I could use for this calculation, I wouldn't require my side combined, but I have to pick the worst condition on the right and the worst condition on the left. So that's what's leading us to that variance today. And I just want to take you back to the first photograph again. And I know I probably should have taken it up a little more, but you can see that when I look at this building, I really see this building from the front picture plane of the building. And at this point, my setback is about 15 feet, even though the setback, the side yard setback, which is back 40 feet off the face of the building here, is where that 6.7 is. I'm going to go back to my architectural prints. Just take you to my next sheet. On my first floor plan, just trying to get it a little bigger here. On my first floor plan, you can see that we've located the right side property line. That's my worst condition setback. In the front here is really the visual condition that I'm talking about. And I can see it's like about 14.5 feet. And then when I come over to my left side, you can see now at a little better scale, the triangle for my side yard setback for a garage facing the street and my rear yard setback triangle. And all of this is really being created because, you know, this is a very angular lot. Right? What it allows us to do is to create a room onto the left side of the building, but really what it allowed us to do was to get a garage down at the basement. Then I come up, I have left the second floor basically as it was, but came up the stairway, walked through, added a laundry room, and added a master bedroom suite over my new building area. Now when I come to my elevations, I took my primary building, right? That's my primary building, my dining room, entrance, foyer, living room. On the right here is those additional buildings that are pushed back off the picture plane where I'm getting too close, way too close to the property line. And on my left side is my new building. We took the gutter mark of the existing building, which was basically at the top of the windows. Then we came in, we lowered that gutter mark to be about 5 foot high on the front of, at the front of the second floor, so that we could, on the top here, lower the roof so that we could scale our building down. We also got concerned with the height of the building from the left side elevation, and that's really why we added that roof over the garage doors, so that we could pull the scale of it down. And you can see that in this left side elevation here, my garage door, my roof coming across my kind of family room. It's really an office space. And then my bedroom, bathroom, and closet space above. Okay. In addition to this, I guess I forgot to mention that we are adding a mudroom on the first floor level back in the corner, which is conforming. I guess I should just show the board where that mudroom is. That is this mudroom that we added. And we're also adding a patio into the back. We're really cleaning up this site. I come to my rear elevation, you can see it. The driveway came and really just rode right up, and this was the previous garage. And we kind of built a retaining wall at the end of our driveway area so that we could berm the grade and get more of a flattened backyard. My new building, where we come across with our lower roof at about that 5-foot mark, and then pop up to create the dormer so that we can create our space in the rear. Okay, that is really my entire application. I'm just gonna go back to the site plan and really just let everybody take a look at how, I guess I'm gonna say, irregular the lot is, right? I'm coming on an angle, the building's a little torqued. And what we were able to do here was really to fit this addition into the building and make it all organized, clean up the site. We have really leveled this area a little bit. You can see the old contour lines that were going up. We have actually leveled this a little bit, because remember, initially you drove up this driveway, drove into the back, and drove into a garage that was right here. We did lots of different studies for this site and ended up that this was the smartest solution. I tried a detached garage in the back corner, but it would give me nothing but a huge amount of paving and driveway into the building. And we figured that in the end, this allowed us to tuck this building into the site. And really what's a 3-story building from the driveway side is actually a 2-story building, from the front and the rear of the structure, right? Matching into the existing house. Now, would you like me to walk you through attachment E or not?
What I would like you to do, Mr. Klesse, is to advise the board members of what you believe to be the effect of these changes on the neighbors.
Okay, well, the way the house is cocked to the street, we have minimal, this below me where my cursor is probably the most affected neighbor, and their houses are far from the property line and not really affected by this building. My neighbor to the right is unaffected. My neighbors to the rear are probably helped, because in the end, we will get the cars out of their backyard as we get them out of our backyard. The way that the building itself is cocked on an angle to the road actually makes our addition look smaller to the street, because we're pulled a little bit further away. And that's where I was saying before that we are about 90 feet from the property line to the garage. So I think our affected neighborhood is really de minimis. If anything, helpful, because we're removing the cars from being in the driveway for the neighbors. This is a street where it's almost impossible to park on the road. And the driveway itself is steep, and you really can't park on the driveway. You really have to get the car into a garage here.
Are there any other questions from board members addressed to Mr. Klesse? Okay, speak up because
I have a couple questions.
yes, Wolfgang.
In going over attachment E, and maybe you're going to be getting to this, when you talk about the proposed side-facing garage setback, the application E has 26 and a half feet. But in
Well,
reality,
It really is 26 and a half feet because it's really measured from the face of the garage door. And from the face of the garage door, it is 26.5. What happened and why I was explaining it the other way is because we actually, I guess you could, we have the greater dimension on our plan, and I just wanted to coordinate to our plan. But the actual, if you look at this, the garage door is actually pushed in a foot.
Mhm.
And the dimension doesn't really start until you hit the tangent of the jamb of the garage door.
I see.
And because we're on this angle, it probably is closer to 26 and a half.
Okay, and then the
I think
25,
it's probably a thing, you know, my guys are still working remotely.
and then the 25.14 then is the one, that's the measurement which is applicable to combined side yard setback.
That is definitely applicable to this side combined, but you know, the ordinance. Yeah, I don't know. Eileen probably knows the answer to this better than I.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Mr. Klesse, can you get back on the screen, please?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not. Oh, or maybe Eileen, I stopped sharing, but oh, maybe I got it. Never mind. It's my fault. It won't let me restart for some reason.
Even if you just turn on your video, you should just have to turn on the video.
You know, I am, but it won't let me restart. You know, I think this happened to me once before when I was on a Zoom, and after I shared, I couldn't get my face back on, my video back on. And I'm hitting it. It's like it doesn't think that my camera is connected to my computer. I could try to share again or leave and come back. I think if I leave and come back, it'll work.
Does that work, Eileen, for him to leave and come back?
Yeah, that's fine.
Would you like me to?
Whatever will get you back here sooner.
I think I went through this one night. Bill won't let me.
Did you check your camera settings to make sure it's recognizing your camera?
I think it'll allow me to share my screen.
gonna bring, this is the applicant, so maybe they're gonna have better luck.
Eileen, I was going to try to come in again on an iPad.
All right, just leave the meeting and then come back.
Okay. So you may see me twice. That's all I'm saying.
I'll log you out of here. I'll take you out of here.
Hello, Eileen.
Kim, can you hear us? And if you can you try to get, there you go.
Here's, all right. we got
There
some.
you
I
are.
came on my iPad. Okay. Would you like me to take you through?
Actually, I had just one more question.
Sorry.
Just this with respect to the rear yard setback, the 27.1, that's taken from that corner of the garage, correct? It's not marked specifically on the drawing or on the design.
Yes, it's from the corner. And it's perpendicular to the property line.
Mhm.
Right. I can't see who's talking.
I have a question.
Oh,
Joy.
The lot area of the site is very undersized, right?
yes.
It's very what?
It's 15,000. The lot area is 15,936 and required is 29,000. It's a R3 zone.
That's almost half, right?
Yes, yes. And we're still under on building coverage, under on lot coverage, and under on gross floor area. And we show as, a very large front yard,
And you'll be adding a garage, which will make it conforming in that respect.
Yes, yes. The garage is required in the zone.
Any other questions of this witness?
Just one. So the rest of this driveway, you would remove that in the back portion and replace it with grass, foliage, what have you?
Yes, that's our intent. Build a wall there and then, at the end of our driveway and then pull up the pavement. Yeah.
Mhm.
From a coverage standpoint, it's not required for this work, but that's our intent.
Right. I guess just one more question. Did you ever consider an addition that was smaller than this, a one-car garage with an extension above it?
You know, if you're gonna side enter with a garage, you need to be 20, let's just say 20 feet long. Because you wouldn't want to front enter with the garage. You would lose that whole berm of dirt that kind of makes the house scale in. So I would still have to enter on the side. And so therefore, if I did a one-car garage, it would still project the same depth. It would just be thinner and actually look more awkward. Does that make sense when I?
No, it
See-
does. I was just wondering, could you enter around the, I guess that's the rear side?
Yeah, but it would be a huge amount of earth removal. And then at the end of that, at the end of the garage, you would have a, you know, an 8-foot high retaining wall. It's, you know, I mean, it probably, it makes sense on the building too, that the building has some visual thickness. But otherwise, in theory, yes, if the site was flat, it would be easy to swing around and do a 90 and come back in and have the garage door facing the backyard of the property. Then the building would go out, let's say 14 feet or, you know, it's, you know, 12 feet, something like that.
Got it. Understood. Thanks.
Any questions of this witness?
Tim, I had a question. This is Chandru.
Hi.
Your combined side yard setback was 50. It goes down to 29.24 feet. The entire around 21 feet is this extension of the new structure, the garage.
Uh-huh.
Now, given that this is so close to the property line, what would you think would be the reaction of the neighbors on that side, given that now it's jutting out that much more into, you know, closer to the property line? Just your view in terms of that, because that would be a consideration given that that's going closer to that side neighbor, and just, you know.
Yes, I understand. The I read you have to unmute. You're muted. But I think the owner has talked to the neighbors. I think they'd be better to answer that question, if that makes sense to the board.
That's fine.
Okay. Oh, no. When I unmuted him.
We're not hearing.
We don't have the echo, and we don't have the applicant on the video.
They have to unmute.
Wouldn't any testimony regarding what the neighbors say be hearsay anyway?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're
like,
gonna,
I mean, like asking the opinion of what the neighbor thinks is, I don't know if that's germane to this.
Don't we have time for if the neighbor has a problem?
yes, we're going, that'll be our, that'll be our next order of business.
Right, so the question doesn't make sense, yeah.
Okay, I just thought that that was an appropriate one, given that, you know, it's going to impact the neighbor and whoever is the right person to answer that.
But the process has that built in.
Any other question?
Yes.
Anyone else have a question for this witness? All right, Eileen, anyone in the audience who's indicated a desire to speak?
Yes, I have Henry Dew. I don't know if he has a question.
Can we bring him in?
I did, he's there.
I have Reed on my cell phone, and he could talk through my mic if you guys would like him to speak. Reed?
Yes, hi.
You know, you could actually talk to the board.
Wait, hold on a second. Again,
Has he been sworn in?
guys, hold on a second.
Okay.
First of all, if somebody is going to be giving sworn testimony, they need to be available on video and audio. That's number one. Number two, if they're going to give sworn testimony, they need to be sworn. So, Mr. Klesse, before you start asking your client questions, let's get him sworn. Okay? So can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay. Please state your name, spell your name, and provide your address, please.
Okay, I'm Reed Kim. It's spelled R-E-A-D-E-K-E-M, 9 North Road in Short Hills.
I'm Akina Kao, A-K-I-N-A-K-A-O, 9 North Road, Short Hills.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Reed, you could walk them through a little bit, and there may be a little bit of interest if you've actually spoken to your neighbors.
Well, we've only spoken with one neighbor who's immediately next to the plan, and I think he was just trying to make a comment. I believe he dialed in, Henry too.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I'm with you.
Wait a minute, Mr. Adu.
Yes.
You have to be sworn.
Okay.
Well, wait, hold on. Right now, we're just up to questions. So, Mr. Do you have a question for Mr. Klesse, who's been given testimony so far?
I don't. And in fact, Mr. and Mrs. Khan talked to me about the plan, and I saw the detailed architect drawing, and I have been very impressed with the whole planning and eventually what's going to be transpired too. In fact, I told Mr. Khan that I cannot wait for the transformation of the architecture plan to reality. And I think it does a lot to this neighborhood. I think it's going to increase the value of the houses around as well, for what I've seen. By the way, should I also?
Again, this is only the time for questions of the witness. And that it should be limited to questions. You'll have an opportunity to make statements.
Yeah, I'm left to Mr. and Mrs. Kim's property. And that's what you may call most affected, quote unquote. And I don't see that my property is affected at all.
No, you're making a statement.
Yeah.
We're only asking now if you have any questions of the witness, of Mr. Klesse. Any question at all?
No, not at all. I think everything has been well presented.
Is there anyone else in the audience who has a question for Mr. Klesse? Only a question now.
There's no one.
No one is showing up?
No one has their hand raised.
Mr. Do, you have to be sworn now.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Do, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Do, tell us your view of what the applicant is prepared to do here.
Well, I have to say I'm not a civil engineer per se, so I cannot speak in technical terms regarding the details of the design, but I looked at the overall layout. It looks very impressive to me. And also, in my view, it's very much needed. In fact, for the reasons that the architect has already articulated. And I've known Mr. and Mrs. Kim for many years. And just for one thing, right, without an indoor garage for a day like this, it's tremendously inconvenient for my dear neighbors. And I see that the car or cars today are covered by maybe more than a foot of snow, right? Imagine all the tough job that is involved in just clearing out the snow and to get moving again. And besides, I think they have two wonderful young kids. They also have a better setting in terms of being able to safely play in and around the house. And the current setting doesn't really lend to that. So I would love to see that indeed
Do you feel that this proposal by the applicants will have a negative effect on your property?
Not at all, not at all. As I said earlier, it has even an enhancing effect in terms of the property value of my house. And it looks grand from a front, from my side. In fact, I have to say that I can only see Mr. and Mrs. Kim's property from my deck, right? I think having the new expansion with the two garages really adds appeal, in my view, to also the property from my angle. So that's why.
Does anyone else on the board have any questions of this witness? Is there anyone else in the audience, Eileen, who wants to speak to this matter?
There were no other hands raised. Let me just check again. No one else.
All right, board members, I'm going to turn this matter over to the board members now to speak to the application. And who would like to go first?
So I'll go. I could
Yes.
I can support this application. I think it's a good application. I think the lot is undersized. I think the geometry of the existing house and the geometry of the site are misaligned. And I think the amount of variance asked on all three is really minimal. And I think it's a good application.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm supportive of this application. I think getting the cars off the driveway is advantageous. Also making the house more practical with a garage. As Joy mentioned, the limitations of the lot size are, speak for themselves in this zone. So I think it would be a good addition to the home.
Is there anyone else on the board who would like to be heard? Is there a motion in this case?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Eileen?
Craig Plattner,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Wolfgang Tutores,
Yes.
Jessica Glatt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
All right, now, the second matter on the agenda tonight is, let me get it in front of me, is 3774-20. The property is 9 Burnside Drive in Short Hills. Mr. Fiore, is he here?
Yes, he is. He's coming over.
While we're awaiting Joe, I would like to make a comment. Oh, this is the Fiore application? 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was the other one that okay, yeah, this is the right application. So I do know the Agarwals, I'm friends with them. Our sons went to school together, but I think that should not prevent me from making a judicious decision here. So just wanted to make that comment.
Well, I thank you for informing us, but if you feel that you can judge this case without any prejudice, one way or the other, you should remain on the board for this application.
Yes, Joe, I think I can be impartial.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And who is going to present for the applicant here?
I am Donald Fiore.
Mr. Fiore, why don't you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please state your name, address, and affiliation, please.
Donald Fiore, Heinz and Fiore Architects, 508 Millburn Avenue, Short Hills, New Jersey, and I'm the architect for the project.
Mr. Fiore, will you give us the benefit of your background and your experience?
Yes, I have a bachelor's of architecture from New Jersey Institute of Technology. I've been a licensed architect since 1988, practicing in Short Hills since 1993. Currently owner of the firm, and am a licensed architect in good standing in the state of New Jersey.
Have you ever appeared before this board or any other board?
Yes, I've appeared before all boards within Millburn and Board of Adjustment, planning boards, historic boards in a number of areas, a number of towns throughout the area.
Thank you. Your qualifications as an architect are accepted by this board.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Okay. For this project, this is 9 Burnside Drive, and the project consists of a proposed frame deck to the rear of the house. And so before I get any further, we did provide certified mail to the property owners list and advertised in the item, and proof of service was provided to the zoning officer. In any event, the project consisting of a frame deck to the rear of an existing house, and there are 3 variances that are going to be required for this. It is an accessory use front yard setback, an accessory structure side yard setback, and lot coverage. And I'll go into each separately. But the basis of the side yard setbacks, front and side yard setbacks, are both related to the geometry of this property, and the lot coverage is also a unique aspect of the property, which includes developed on a private street. I will share the site plan. If I can get this up here. There we go. Okay. What was that? Okay. On this site plan, for the 3 variances, the first one, front yard setback for an accessory structure. There's an 80-foot requirement for the setback.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you mind closing that little menu on the right? If you hit that little right arrow, it closes that menu on the right and gives us over to the right, that little arrow right in the middle.
The little arrow right in the middle.
Next to the word protect, you see right in the middle here? Come down to the right side, come over, down a little bit, down, hit that little black arrow right there. And it closes that menu.
I don't even see one.
That's in the middle.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I thought it would make things better if you could close that. Okay, if you don't see it, that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Is that better?
Okay, thank you.
For the site plan, the front yard setback from the front property line is 80 feet to the back. This curved line around the base of the property is the existing front yard property line. The 80-foot setback requirement drops this to a triangle behind the house. That is the only portion of the property that actually meets this requirement for the accessory use structure. The second variance would be for the side yard setback of an accessory use. And we're measuring that from the property line across the top of the site plan down 12 feet. What is happening on this property is, because of the nature of this curved front property line, it's actually considered a corner lot. So with that, effectively, this slope side, the curve, and up the right-hand side is all the front yard. This side across the top is considered a side yard. So we have a 12-foot side yard requirement for that accessory structure. We are proposing 6.5 feet, and that results in a violation of 5.5 feet. The third aspect of the third variance that is required is lot coverage. Now, one of the odd or unique things about this property, this is the front property line. However, this is also the center line of a private street. Effectively, there's a 10-foot right-of-way on this property that belongs to that street and is currently paved. If you considered any other normal, typical lot, the property line would be ending at a location approximately 10 feet away from the curb line. In this case, the first 10 feet of their property is actually paved and is the actual road. So with that, we have a coverage issue that also results in this project. There is a 35% requirement for lot coverage. With our project, we're requesting 42.2%. A 7.2% variance is required. The area that we're talking about in front here is approximately 2,000 square feet of the lot that is existing paved, that is actually the road for that particular neighborhood. So we're looking at this as counting effectively negatively against us in terms of the development of this property and calculations. From what I can tell historically, it appears that the lot area had always been calculated to the actual meets and bounds to the center line of the street. However, the impervious calculations that were presented were only calculated from the interior portion, from the portions of the property inside the right-of-way. So effectively, this entire 2,000 square feet of paved road was simply ignored in prior applications. In this case, we're trying to recognize it, resolve it, and make sure it's understood and clear.
Those are the three variances.
Yes, yes. So with this, front yard setback. As I said, working off of the center line of the street going back, the result of that setback from this longer side sloping down from the left and curving around up to the right results in a triangular space in the corner. That's the only space in the property that technically meets the nature of this requirement. Now, in my professional opinion, the intent of this type of an ordinance is to minimize the impact on the streetscape. Well, in this case, we have a deck proposed that is wholly behind the front elevation of this house. The issue gets to be, if the lot were squared off and rectangular, the nature of this variance would be much less, or would essentially be eliminated. In this case, the property lines start to curl around the end of the property and create this substantial impact with respect to this variance. The location of the deck is wholly behind the house. The intent was to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. And with respect to properties that's available, we cannot meet the ordinance and tuck the deck behind the house. But we do find that feel that the deck being totally behind the house really is something that minimizes any impact on the streetscape and has very little impact with respect to this particular variance. For the accessory use side yard setback. Again, from what is the side property line, this line here is what's is representing the side yard setback. This is 12 foot off of the property line. We are proposing 6.5 feet. The variance then is the balance of 5.5 feet. Again, similar to what I described for the front yard setback, we're trying to get a deck that is sufficient for the applicants. At the same time, we're also trying to minimize and balance the impacts on streetscape. So in this case, our intent was to keep the deck wholly behind the house. We did increase or extend it across the required setback towards the property line. However, again, we're keeping it 6.5 feet off that property line. The intent is to keep all of the mature evergreen trees along that side of the property. So screening will remain in place. And in terms of the adjacent property, what you're seeing here, relatively speaking, this is the corner of the existing adjacent house scaled in. Their driveway runs down this side of the property. And this area right here is effectively the turnaround area of their driveway. It has a rear entry 2-car garage. So anything that you're seeing along this wall is their existing garage door. So the location of the deck also is something that really minimizes the impact to the neighboring property and their lifestyle. And it's something there in terms of the neighborhood are all these odd lot sizes, lot shapes, configurations. With respect to the deck that we're looking at here, it's actually a fairly common thing within this street. And actually, if you went to the neighbor's property on the opposite side, which is included in some of our photographs, it's a similar situation. Their deck, their actual living, useful living deck, same type of relationship to the property line. And I would say closer to their neighbor's house. So it's something that's consistent within that neighborhood. Third one, in terms of the lot coverage. As I said, this is something 35% is required. We are proposing 42.2%. The biggest impact that we're having here is the fact that it's a private street and 2,611 square feet of this property is the paved street, which counts against us in our calculations. So for the deck that we are proposing, this is not something that is an extremely large deck. The lot meets the requirements for the ordinance for this zone. It's 14,661 square feet in area. Required is 14,500. An aspect of this frame deck that is important, it is considered lot coverage, but it is not impervious coverage in terms of getting into stormwater management and mitigation. Effectively, rain, snow drips through the deck. So it's not something that would actually change either the stormwater runoff or, in this case, the storm retention system that was developed previously for an addition in the back of the house. So the impacts of the deck itself are actually minimal with respect to the neighborhood, the streetscape, and in my opinion, the neighboring properties. It has little impact with respect to the lifestyle of the neighbors. being located adjacent to their turnaround area of the driveway. And really, there's no impact with respect to the neighborhood, the streetscape. We have extensive screening that we are maintaining with mature trees located between the property lines or between the properties. We have very little impact to the right side, which is still considered the front yard. And actually, from the right side of the property, the deck actually does conform. We are only in violation for the front yard setback from the left side of the house effectively. So with that, I believe we have something that really, it works with the ordinances, with the spirit of the ordinance in terms of protecting the streetscape, the density of the neighborhood, and has very little impact on the streetscape, on the neighbors, and on the neighborhood itself.
Thank you. Board members do have questions for Mr. Fiore. You take that down. Thank you. Questions from board members?
Eileen, I think Jyoti got, oh, she's back on. Okay, great.
Yeah, I just realized that. I have one member of the attendees who has her hand raised. So when we're ready for public questions, just let me know.
Well, I think if there are no members, no questions from board members, I think we'll go directly to members of the public. These are questions only, not comments or statements. There'll be a time for that. This is questions only. Anyone have a question for Mr. Fiore?
Bringing over, why is Tim Plessy here? Carol Ball.
Yeah, I mean, Tim would be in. He was one of the notified neighbors.
Yeah, I know that.
All right, well, yeah, but he doesn't go on here. All right, Mrs. Ball.
Ms. Ball, do you have a question for Ms.
I do. I do. I'm Carol Mascaleras Ball. I'm a part of the Mascaleras Family Trust. And our property is diagonal to this home. I'm wondering how high the deck is and what the impact on the neighbors will be in terms of being seen by people on the deck. In other words, will we have privacy?
Thank you.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, I'm just looking through the property list to make sure I know which.
2 Farley Road, is that where you live?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna share the site plan again if I could.
That's fine.
Okay. For the property that this ball is calling from, the lot next door, she would be the next property back on the left-hand side. So I want to say just above the screen, somewhere in this area. Right now, the intent is to maintain all of the existing landscaping that is along that existing property line and down the left-hand side. So not all of that, which is all mature evergreens, would be remaining. In terms of the height of the deck, it's intended to be just below the existing finished first floor. And that, I'm just trying to get the grading on here. '53 to 258. So the deck would be at this corner. I'm gonna go to this corner. This is the worst one. This corner, the deck would be 4 feet above the existing grade. So in terms of height, yes, it is above the existing grade. However, the grade currently slopes down from right down to the left. And as a reference point, there is an existing retaining wall holding back the grading for a stair to get down to the existing garage. Our deck is intended to just come over the top of that. So it would be the top of that existing wall is at 252.19. We would be at 250. Where am I? I'm sorry. There we go. The deck is at 258.44. So we are coming out and clearing the existing grade on the high corner on the back right. It's then at 4 feet on the left and would be 6 feet in the air relative to the existing grade.
The landscaping doesn't cover really that corner very well. I'm wondering, any thoughts to either more landscaping or fencing?
We do have the owners on. I probably would not recommend fencing in that if the intent was for screening anything above the existing grade. Effectively, we are doing a deck that is raised off of the grade. Essentially, we'd put a fence in, which would create a solid barrier, and then we would look over the top of the barrier. So I don't think there would be a positive impact there. In terms of landscaping, we can have the owner present and make a recommendation there. I'm just looking to see if I have a photograph that will show that particular corner. Let me see if I can get the application on here. They're scanned just to black and white. This, I don't know that I actually have a photograph that would show, because I think you're looking just to the left of the picture that I'm looking at right now.
I agree.
Yeah, this is a shot from the landscaping that I was saying we would be maintaining across to the neighbor's driveway and then to deck beyond for them. I would probably say that the deck beyond is something that would be similar in scale in terms of height above grade, since we're actually looking at an image.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, we can have the owners comment on it. I would actually have to see. I would look to see the actual location and the angle that you're calling about to see how best to screen it, or if it's reasonable or appropriate. I'm not quite sure, being the two houses up on that side.
Yeah, I'm definitely fine to put more tree over there if that helps. We already.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. If
In here.
two things, we have an audio issue, and also if the applicant is going to provide some sworn testimony, he needs to be sworn. Okay. Sir, can you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Can't hear you.
Yes.
Please state and spell your name and provide your address, please.
Yeah. Saurabh Agrawal, 9 Burnside Drive, Short Hills, New Jersey.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Fiore. You want to ask me questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rob, from that back corner, is there an ability to screen effectively what would be to the left of the deck along the property line any further?
So most of the like backside and the side is covered through the trees. I know there's a one section, maybe not have that high tree, but we can add there or 2 trees if needed. So, but most of the things is covered because recently, actually 3 years ago, our neighbor has planted 4 trees, which is now grown. So previously it was like we can see this our neighbor's yard, but now those trees like high enough, which is they covered our yard.
Okay. It's something, I mean, without, as I said, I would not want to make a recommendation in terms of how best to screen it. It's something I would want to go looking specifically for your view that I would be trying to address. It would seem to be that something along the lines of an arborvitae, the green giant, something of that nature, or an evergreen screening back on that side is something that we can deal with.
Mr. Fiore, we have this problem, and that is that we have a matter before us tonight, and we can't make a decision based on the fact that you and your client are going to sit down and try to figure out what can be done. We need a proposal. So if you're not prepared to make it tonight, I think we'll have to carry this matter, and then you can come back and let us know what you propose for screening on that side of the deck.
Okay, so Rob, without knowing the distance for that particular angle, what I would be recommending would be green giant arborvitae, a row of that, perhaps supplemented or replaced with an evergreen, just in terms of giving a softer barrier. If that's something that's within reason, I can describe a screening that we would be proposing.
Right, that's totally fine. I mean, we have put some of those trees, so we can add.
Mr. Fiore,
okay.
I'm going to also suggest that when you make the proposal to the board, you also include the proposed height of the trees when they are planted, the height above the root ball, so that we can be precise in terms of what we suggest or what we condition the application on. Are there any other people in the audience who have any questions? Questions only now.
No.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a statement to the board with respect to this application, understanding that the matter is going to be carried for the sole purpose, after we discuss the matter tonight, assuming that there are enough votes to approve, the matter will be carried to determine what the screening will be on the left side as you face the house, the left side of the deck in the rear. Is there anyone who has a statement he or she would like to make to this board tonight? Eileen, is there anyone who would like to make a statement?
No, there's no hands. So wait, so you're not voting on this matter tonight. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I want to get a sense of the board members. I don't want Mr. Fury to come back if there's very strong sentiment against this application. So we're going to have a discussion among the board members now as to whether or not, assuming that Mr. Fury's proposal with the concurrence of his client is acceptable to the board, what the board members' view of this application is, holding that matter aside. So is there anyone on the board who would like to speak to this case?
I will.
Yes.
So in addition to, so these houses are fairly close in proximity, and in addition to the side yard setback, which is not very large under the proposed conditions, and the trees are there to mitigate it. The other concern I have is that when you drive into this neighborhood, you really do see this deck right from the road as you're driving in, past the front of the house. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that in particular, but I think that that's a real concern as well.
Actually, I think one of the things you would see, and there's a photograph that shows the end of the house with the existing garage doors. Immediately to the left of that, what you're seeing is an arborvitae. These are smaller plants, but it's at the start of an arborvitae screen along that side. So that is something that as the landscaping grows in, that would definitely be softened.
Sorry, that's there or proposed?
It exists.
Okay, so when I don't know, I drove through there on Sunday, I have to say, and what you see there are a bunch of chairs on the lawn and such where the deck would be. I apologize, I don't recall seeing the arborvitae there.
Yeah, what'll happen, actually, there's one of the photographs of the end of the house that's included in the application. They are smaller plants, and I would say what I would be talking about would be taller and tighter. So that is something that as landscaping grows in, that would tend to soften that particular access point.
Well, that could be part of your proposal, or maybe you could present the board when you make your proposal with some kind of a drawing so that we could actually see what we're talking about in terms of the visibility of that deck. Anyone else from the board have a comment? Eileen, is it possible to give Mr. Fury a date for continuing this matter?
You're not going to vote on it. Is that the decision of the board?
We're not voting on it tonight, but we're going to consider a suggestion that he may have after discussing it with his client for landscaping, taking into account Amy Lawrence's comment.
Now, one thing as Eileen is looking, I would like to say in terms of the comment of the view of the yard, chairs versus deck, given the yard is always for use for the owners. In terms of the visibility and the appearance of either chairs and that type of thing on the lawn area running down that hill or the deck, I actually would have proposed the deck to give something as a cleaner, more orderly, so you don't have the chairs, tables, things running down the lawn. But in that regard, it's a personal comment, or I would say a professional comment with respect to that particular view. But the angle is there and you will see that deck, so.
Eileen, is it possible to give Mr. Fury and his client a date?
Well, we could do March 1st because The deadline for decision by the board is March 8th.
For the March 1st meeting?
I mean, I don't envision this will take a long
I
time.
don't think it'll take very long at all. Mr. Fury, March 1. And
Rob?
let's get something into Eileen Davitt's hands as quickly as possible so that she can circulate it to the board members.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, board members, we're going to move to the last matter on the agenda tonight.
So just so we're clear that this application is being carried to the March 1st, 2021 meeting of the Board of Adjustment with no further notice.
With no further notice required, correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, the last matter on the agenda tonight, I'm looking for the number of it, is 3775, calendar 3775-20. 132 Hartshorn Drive. Now, Eileen, would you like to give the board members the same statement that you gave to me with regard to the history of this matter?
Well, they're back before the board because they did not act on their variance relief. I think their variance was approved in 2019. And they did not act on the variance, so they missed their 365 days. And in addition, at the first time around, they did not provide any steep slope information. They also required a variance for steep slope disturbance, which they're seeking this time. I would like to add that on Friday, I sent Mr. Papalillo an email because I did not receive the certified mailings or anything indicating anything to that effect. So I do not have the certified mail receipts for this application.
So there's no certification that the notice was given, is that what you're saying?
That's not correct, Chairman. I have those. James first here, Mr. Chairman. I submitted via email to Ms. Davitt the green certified mail slips, as well as the publication proof in the Star Ledger. My intention was to hand deliver those to her today, but obviously with the state of emergency, I could not do that. For purposes of posterity, I have those here, Mr. Chairman, and I can deliver those to her. I assure you that I did that correctly.
Okay, I just wanted to put it on the record that I hadn't yet gotten.
Thank you, Mr. First. Okay, so this is a matter that was heard by the board, I think, at the end of 2017. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I have a resolution of February 6, 2017, approving something that's substantially similar to what we have here today. I'm not aware of the reasons that it was never acted upon, whether that be market forces or whatever it may be, but it expired. We're back here today. Slight tweak in the design. We are adding the steep slope variance requirement. So we have the 4 variances today. 3 of those variances were reviewed and approved previously.
Can we get some understanding as to who's testifying, please?
Yeah, just hold on a second, Mr. First. Just a couple of things. First of all, can you lower your volume just a tad? Because I'm getting some interference. I don't know if other board members are as well.
How's that, Mr. Simon?
Much better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2, as I think it was Mr. Toger made a mention of, are you going to be, as the attorney, you're going to be presenting witnesses tonight?
That's correct. I have 4 participants, the 2 applicants, Mr. Benitez and Mr. Papalillo, and I also have, should be logged in, Kevin Page as my civil engineer, and Kim Tone as my architect. I'm hoping that they're here as well.
Yes,
And for the record, James First, on behalf of the applicant, I apologize, I jumped in here. On behalf of the applicant, 132 Hartshorn JMPOG LLC, offices located at 159 Millburn Avenue in the wonderful town of Millburn.
Thank you. All right, Mr. First, why don't you proceed with your first witness?
I don't know how to let them in.
I will let them in. Just tell me who you want me to bring over.
I have, the two applicants are Eric Benitez and John Papalillo. I don't know that they're going to participate, but I think we might as well let them in anyway. And then I have Kevin Page and I have Kim Tone. I'm not sure if I pronounced that Tone. I apologize, Kim.
Who do you want to be your first witness?
Mr. Page is our civil engineer. He'll be speaking first.
So, Joe, I want to make a comment again. I do know John Papalillo. They're neighbors and friends. But I think I can stay on the case and be impartial for this case as well.
Yes, I also want to put on the record the same thing. I have had one business matter with Mr. Papalillo, but I assure the board, view this case impartially without any problem, one way or the other. Okay, so Mr. First, call your first witness.
Miss Devon, I don't see Mr. Papalillo on the screen. Do you see him?
I just see John, so I'm going to bring him, assuming that.
If it's not him, we'll throw him out.
Okay.
And if I may say, Mr. Steinberg, it's a pleasure to see you. And Mr. Simon, welcome to Millburn.
Good to be here, Mr. First.
Nice to see you, Tim.
All right, I think we're all here. Mr. Chairman, my first witness is going to be Mr. Kevin Page. Ms. Davitt, Mr. Page is not going to be able to screen share. So if there's a way that I can share my screen, and then he'll testify off of what I have on my screen, and then Kimberly will request screen share access for her own presentation.
That's fine.
So Kevin, if you can unmute. Are you unmuted? I don't see you.
You can't share the screen because we can't see him while you're screen sharing.
So here, I'll stop share. Hopefully it works.
There we go.
Right. So Kevin, if you can unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Okay.
If you can raise your right hand.
Yep.
You solemnly swear from the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So please state your name, spell your name, and provide your address and affiliation, please.
Sure. Kevin G. Page, P-A-G-E. I'm affiliated with Page Muller Consulting Engineers of Warren, New Jersey. I'm a 1973 graduate of Newark College of Engineering, and I've been doing this about 48 years, and I've been over 4,000 board meetings, and I've been to Millburn.
The qualifications are accepted as an engineer.
Thank you.
Okay, you can share now, Mr. First.
Great, thanks, Ellen.
And by the way, let me just say for the record, I'm also a licensed professional planner. I've testified many times on those at that.
How is he appearing tonight?
Civil engineer.
As a civil engineer. Thank you.
Thank you.
So James, I don't know if you're going to put the drawings up, but let me just start.
How's that?
That's perfect. So this particular property, 132 Hartshorn Drive, block 3903, lot 25, was the subject of a prior application and variance, which was granted. I think the record shows it was approved in 2017. For whatever reason, market conditions, whatever, and nothing ever happened. And we're basically back with a similar application. Albeit there's one new variance listed here, and that is a variance from the steep slope ordinance. So you can see on our plot plan, soil erosion sediment control plan, we have a number of different exhibits representing the same lot. And the lot itself meets all the town requirements: lot area, lot width, lot depth, etc. We're asking for some variances, all of which are related to the disturbance of the steep slope. You can see in the bottom of the drawing, you'll see a small rendering with shading. That shading represents the slopes that are greater than 20%. And so according to your ordinance, we're only allowed to disturb 1,000 square feet. And on this particular property, we're disturbing 16,730 square feet, because you can see more than 60% of the lot contains these steep slopes. So this is a classic hardship case where we have existing steep slope conditions that necessitate the granting of the variance.
Kevin, what's the grade change from the high point to the low point across the lot, please?
If you start up at Hartshorn to the back, it drops about 40 feet. So some of the relief we're seeking is to somewhat overcome this condition.
Kevin, I'm going to show two photographs, if I may.
Sure.
Mrs. Simon, I don't know how you want these to be marked. I can just mark them as A1 and A2. Everything else has previously been submitted.
That's fine.
They have not been submitted to the board or to Eileen to date.
That's correct.
Okay, so why don't we mark them as A1, and is it a set of photographs?
There are two photographs. One is, they're both of the existing lot. One is to the left side of the lot. One is to the right side of the lot.
Okay,
So I can submit those as A1 and A2, whatever you think, Mr. Simon.
let's just call them A1, and which will be identified as a series of two photographs.
Excellent. Mr. Page, this is a photograph of 132 Hartshorn Drive. Are you familiar with this location?
Yes, I've been there several times, including this past Saturday.
And does this appear to be the existing conditions as they are now?
Well, I don't know where this shot is taken from. So
Is this
I don't know if you're looking at if this view is actually of the neighbor to the left.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well,
that would explain it, because obviously topographically, this doesn't look like a 40-foot drop.
okay, so Mr. Page, did you take the photograph?
I did not.
Mr. First, is there someone that you have who took the photograph who got the image from, looks like Google?
I captured the image this afternoon, and I believe as long as the witness can identify it as the existing condition, it should be satisfactory regardless of who took it. But I pulled the photo off of Google 2 hours ago.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification.
And I'm going to show you another one, Mr. Page.
Yeah.
Does that appear familiar to you, sir?
This appears to be the house to the right. And you can see our property is to the left of this, is the left side. You can see how it's dropping off. But you also see how the home that was built to the right has a series of significant retaining walls, not dissimilar to what we're proposing. The same is true. You didn't capture all the home to the left, but the home on the left also has retaining walls in order to support its driveway and its backyard.
That's what we see here,
Yeah.
Mr. Page?
Yes.
Do you know the height of this retaining wall?
I didn't walk down onto the site Saturday, but I'm estimating about 6 to 8 foot high. The
Thank
one
you.
on the right side, I would estimate probably closer to 12 feet high. The home on the right.
Okay.
And so our lot is actually in between these two homes, which were developed with the retaining walls in order to create the building pad.
And our lot is a vacant lot presently, correct?
Our lot is a vacant lot.
Okay, I'll pull your site plan up again. Okay, continue. Sorry, I interrupted.
Sure. So one of the things that we've done, and this is another variance that we're asking, is if you go up a little higher on the drawing, and just a little bit to the left, the other way, and just down a little bit there. I want to get that drawing to the right. So the front setback requirement in this zone is a minimum of 40 feet or the average of the building setbacks along this area, which there's a calculation on our drawing that shows the average is 66.63 feet. We're asking for permission to have the front setback of the corner of the garage at 52 feet. At that corner, you were showing exactly. This creates a little rhomboid shape. If you look at the parallel line at 66.63 feet, there's a portion of the garage, and only the garage there, that would encroach. It's about 260 square feet, which represents about 7.5% of the total building envelope. The reason we're doing this is that we're trying to keep the structure as close to Hartshorn Drive as possible, and yet still be reasonable within terms of the setback. So the minimum in this zone is 40. The prescribed minimum is the average of setback is 66. We're asking for 52 feet, but it's only this little rhombus shape of the garage. But again, the closer we could keep the structure to the road, the least disturbance of the steep slope we require. You'll notice that we also, if you could shift the drawing, your view to the left, this is a grading plan. So not only does it slope from front to back, it also slopes from a high on the right side to lower on the left side. So in order to minimize the disturbance, we bring the driveway in on the left side at the lower elevation, and then we have a driveway going down slope into the auto courtyard to access the home and the garages there. This allows us also to work with the contours. You'll notice you try to do your driveways and your disturbance parallel with the contours. And that's what we've done with this driveway. As we come in, we're trying to parallel the existing contours. And we create this auto courtyard to access the garage and the front of the house. If you look to the back of the house now, the back of the house has a walkout basement. So again, when you have a steep slope, downhill slope, you want to have the architecture work with the topography as best you can. And that's what we've done here. The architects come up with a plan. So when you enter the house, the courtyard there, the ground outside is elevation 331. You come up 2 feet for the first floor. That's traditional for termite protection. And then you have a walkout basement in the back at about 421.7, 422, into a proposed lawn area. That lawn area will be created by having a series of 2 retaining walls, possibly 3. It will depend on some buyer if he wants a pool or whatever there, but a minimum of 2 retaining walls back there. So this plan is consistent with what was previously approved with some tweaks. But this is the best way to develop this property. It is consistent with the development on either side of us. We are capturing the roof runoff and the driveway into 2 different dry well areas. And then all the other utilities come out the left side of the house and are connected to the utilities in the street, sewer, water, and gas. So let me go over the height calculations for this property. And if you go to the top, right there, go up top. Okay. So we've done 2 sets of height calculations. So you'll see that you have all these spot shots around the house. The simple numbers, like outside the front door, you'll see an elevation 427.0. That's the existing grade of the natural ground. You then see 431. That's the proposed grade. And so as you go around the house, you can see the different elevations. So in the front corner of the garage, the elevation is actually going to be 3 to 3.5 feet of cut, meaning we're going to be setting the garage lower than the natural grade. At the back of the house, we have the walkout basement. That's set about 8 or 9 feet above the grade. So we're using some cut and fill and using the architecture to work with the topography. So if you could go down, just down below the height, you see on the left, we have the building height calculations. It says measure to the average lowest grade. But the term here, average lowest grade, is the natural grade. So you'll see that when you take all those shots and you divide them by the 31 different pairings of numbers, you have a height under natural conditions of 38.8 from the average grade to the peak of the roof. If you look to the right, you have the calculation that shows from the proposed elevations to the peak of the roof. Now, I want to tell you something that we have a clerical error on this calculation. The actual number is 34.8 for the proposed building height. It is not the 35.0 shown there. We will correct our drawing after the board's decision. But it's 34.8. I'd like you to know also from the first floor of the home to the peak of the roof is only, I want to make sure I got this number right. Is less than 30 feet high. The actual home itself, from the finished first floor to the peak of the roof, is less than 30 feet high. So the height issue actually has to do with the grades around the house, whether it be the front and the sides, and then of course the walkout basement. And that brings us to the average. So when it's all complete, it will be in fact not atypical from the homes developed on either side of us. It'll have the retaining walls for the driveway going down. It'll have the retaining walls for the backyards, just consistent with the neighbors on either side. I don't think I have any more to present, but I'll be happy to answer.
Mr. Page, I have one question for you. As I drive down the street and I see the streetscape, is this house going to look similar to the houses next to it?
Yes.
And that's this number here, correct?
Yes, this will be, yes. I will tell you the first floor here will be a little lower than our neighbors on either side because I think we're trying to control the amount of retaining walls we have. But basically, yes, it'll be consistent.
And Mr. Page, let's just do that because I know that was one of the variances we had. So I don't know where on this we can talk about it, but I do want you to speak about the retaining wall. I think maybe this is the cleanest one to view that. Tell us where that is and why that is there.
Well, you have a retaining wall on the right-hand side of the driveway. That's the shaded line, and that's 4 feet. And I believe the code says you're only supposed to be 2 feet in the front yard. But this is on a down slope. So
I'm going to pull us over to the slope one so we can see it here.
Sure. So I think what's important to realize is that the 4 feet is not on the street side, it's on the downhill side. You actually have to be inside the driveway apron, the auto court, to see the 4 feet. So from the street, you're not looking at a 4 foot high wall. You're basically, the grass comes at the top of the wall.
Understood. Thank you. Mr. Steinberg, I have nothing further, Mr. Page, at this point. I'll turn him over to the board for questions.
Are there any questions from board members of this witness?
Yeah, I have a question, Joe, about, so Mr. Page, is there a plan to build a pool on this property? You alluded.
There is not, but we've done a lot of work in Millburn. And many times our clients are building homes and they come to us and they say, we have a customer and they want to put a pool in, can we put a pool in? So I have a smart client and he's designing this backyard to allow for someone in the future, if they choose to, put a pool in.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Mr. Steinberg, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Page, you mentioned earlier that compared to the prior approval, that you've made or was made some tweaks to the plan. Do any of those tweaks, other than I understand now you need slope relief, affect any of the variances that were previously granted?
I don't recall. Not that I could think of, but I know I have both sets of drawings here, and I looked at them before tonight's hearing, and they look very similar. Again, that case was 4 to 5 years ago, so it was I have a good memory, but not a perfect memory.
Mr. Simon, I have that here, and it appears I have 40-foot setback for front yard. That was a 66.6 setback. There was a 4-foot retaining wall in that application. There is in this application. We talk about the 44-foot grade change. So even though there was no steep slope disturbance, so to speak, it was still addressed last time. The 1.5-story garage will maintain a 50-foot front yard setback. Again, same thing with the setback. The house is setback 83.5. It's only that corner of the garage. Talks about how if they were to push it back versus bring it closer, that would create greater issues with the property. There was a flat roof application at that time, and I think they've definitely changed that. We'll hear from the architect about the style of the home, but generally speaking, Mr. Simon, it's real close. It may be just a little bit of style based on, current trends in the market, but I think the architect can address all of that for you.
Thank you, Mr. First.
Thank you. Next witness.
Kim, you out there? At this point, I'm going to stop my share because I think Kim is going to do her own share. Let's see what we got.
She's gonna have to be sworn, correct? I don't think
I'll
she.
qualify her as well, yes.
Yep, is she, tell me when you're ready.
Ready?
Okay. Can you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Can you please state your name, spell your name and address, please?
Kimberly Tone, Tone. Address is 1155 Staffler Road in Bridgewater, New Jersey.
Kim, can you present the board with your qualifications to give testimony tonight as an architect?
Yes, I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey as an architect since 1995. I have a bachelor in architecture from Penn State University, graduated in 1992, and I've been practicing in the state of New Jersey since 95. I have testified before many other boards, including this board for this previous application. Other boards are Summit, Chatham, both Township and Borough, and Madison as well.
So you were the architect and did give testimony with regards to the 2017 application that we've been referring to?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you heard Mr. Simon's question. If through your testimony you recall and can give us the specifics as to what has changed from the previous to the current plans, I think that would be very helpful for the board.
Okay.
I'll let you do your thing, Kim. Thanks.
Okay. So the previous application was very similar in floor plan. There were a few areas that we tweaked. The basic entrance to the house, to the foyer, changed where it becomes the center hall colonial now. The previous application had the stair over here. That created some inefficiencies in the second floor plan. So we actually have a slightly smaller building, slightly bigger footprint, slightly smaller building than the previous application. As far as square footage, our square footage went down in this application, but the footprint went up a little bit. We increased the area of the mudroom over here a little bit and bumped out the breakfast room and brought the family room in a little. So the first floor, you walk in through the center, there's living room to the right, dining room to the left, the street is out out here, obviously, 3-car garage in the motor court area. Up here, you come in through a side door for mudroom. Here, there's kitchen, breakfast area, family room with a deck at the back, core of butler's pantry and powder room between the dining room and the kitchen, and a first floor guest bedroom in the back left corner of the house over here. On the second floor, we have a master bedroom suite and 3 additional bedrooms and bathrooms. And this is a bonus room, which could be used as a guest suite or an office. You know, our current times, it's a great space for an office, given that it's private from the rest of the house. And then this is the front elevation. The changes to the building were mostly stylistic to get a few roof lines changed here and there. As far as the overall appearance of the house, we tried to change the aesthetic to be something that was, I think, even nicer than what we had before. But it's overall very similar massing. A few roof lines changed. As far as the, I think this building is pretty similar in height. I know that the second floor changed from 8 foot to 8'6" in this, just because I think that that's what's driving the, I think that's what a lot of people are actually looking for on second floors these days. And I think one of the things that's important to say in this application is that the reason for the height variance is predominantly, we could design this house without the height variances if the roof were flat. If the roof were cut off at this point here, we probably wouldn't need any variances, but it's not in keeping with the style of the housing in the area and in the neighborhood, and it's not really all that attractive. So that's why we're seeking relief for that. This is the front portion of the garage that's closer to the street. One of the reasons that we actually are seeking a variance for the building, the average front yard setback variance for that portion of the garage is also, as Kevin mentioned, he explained it one way, but there's another reason. As we pull the building forward, we actually are not fighting the height as much. So the deeper we go, the taller the building gets. So if we push it back, we'd be going for a probably a bigger variance in height just to get it to work. And we'd be chasing, the driveway would be chasing down, and it would become larger retaining walls and a lot more problematic to get the house to actually sit right on the property. So we felt that this was the best approach. The back of the house is here. So there's, as Kevin mentioned, there's a walkout basement in the back. This overall, the front of the house, if I go back to the previous sheet, this part of the house is essentially from the first floor here up to the roof is under 30 feet. So you're not going to really perceive this house from the street as taller than anything in the neighborhood. What we did with the grades around the perimeter of the house is that we made the final grades conforming, so that the average grade around the perimeter of the house will make the house appear from the new grade, it will be a 35-foot average.
So Kim, let's just say that again. So our variance is if we were to build this house and not change the conditions, but it's our intention to change the conditions such that if those conditions currently existed, this would be a variance-free application as to height. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, there's an overall, I think the overall total from lowest point of the house to the tallest is a little taller than the 40-foot.
Okay.
But the overall average from the average grade plane around the proposed structure, so the new grade around the house will conform to the 35 feet.
Thank you.
And then this is the right side elevation where you can see the garage over here, and then the body of the house, and then the slope that we're dealing with. The real grade is down here somewhere. And then last page is the opposite, the left side elevation, where this is the side of the garage and then the massing of the house. Back, you can see the deck out here and the grade lower here. So that's, I think, all I have, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Kim. Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further of Ms. Tone at this point.
Let's see if any board members have any questions. Board members, questions of this witness? Apparently not. Now, let's give the audience an opportunity to ask questions of both of your witnesses. Anyone in the audience, Eileen?
I need Ms. Tone to unshare her screen, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, I have one person with their hand raised. I'll bring them over.
Now, let me state again, questions only now of the witnesses, not statements. Let's bring in that person who has a question.
And this is, the name is Kadawala. You need to unmute if you have a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can
Okay.
now.
Yeah, hi.
Question only now.
Hi, well, my name is Srinath J. Kodawala. I'm a professional engineer and I'm representing Dr. Mehul Shah, who is a neighbor just on the right side of the subject property.
We
So-
have only questions now.
Yeah, the question is, can we have some kind of buffering? I don't see any in the plan, any kind of buffering between this property and the next door property. This property used to be wooded. So there's a big striking change for a neighbor to see something suddenly vanished, all the trees. So would you be able to create a 20 feet wide strip, which you have a room there, and show some kind of landscaping? I don't see any. As well as the seepage pit, which is taking all the water at one particular location, very close to the big retaining wall we have on the site. So we would like to see maybe that seepage pit is split into 2 or 3 small seepage pit at different location. So we are not concentrating entire roof runoff and a ground runoff at one particular point. So
Well,
those,
the seepage pits will be addressed by the engineering department, not here.
okay, but okay. This was just a request that if that can be split into 2 or 3 small system versus one point discharge is kind of not preferable way of discharging this much of rainwater.
This is Kevin Page. Can I answer?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me go back to I did already testify that there's actually 2 dry well systems on this property. We're taking part of the roof and driveway to the right side, and we're taking the roof to the left side. So we actually have 2 different dry well systems collect the runoff. Number 2, this property, even after construction, is going to be much lower than our neighbor to the right. If you look at the grading plan, and James, I don't know if you could put that, that's the most left portion of the property. Go back a little further, go towards the top a little more. Okay, right there. So off our property to the right, you see a series of 2 different retaining walls. My estimate is that the top of the retaining wall towards the back, where you see where it says proposed limited disturbance, above the word proposed, that wall is probably 10 to 12 feet high. That means his backyard is 10 to 12 feet higher than where we are. And from that point, we dropped from an elevation about, yes, well,
Kevin, is this the wall you're talking about?
that is.
And this is the same wall that we see on this plan here, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so what you'll see is that from where there's an elevation 430, which is again goes near the word disturbance and proposed limit of disturbance. That's elevation 430 up against the house. We're at 422. So that drops down another 8 feet. So if someone says to me, you know, Kevin, could we plant some trees in this area? The answer is yes. I never want to get trees nowadays too close to any home. But could we plant trees? But I'm not sure they would be effective to do any screening because they're so much higher than us. It'd be like someone saying they're looking out their bedroom window on the second floor and they, you know, could look in my garage. They have to look down into my garage. They're not looking out in our garage. So again, I'm not sure I don't know that we can effectively buffer, you know, something that's 20 feet up in the air. They're much higher than us. We're not higher than them.
So Kevin, traditional landscape that might provide a buffer for a neighbor of that nature isn't going to work in this situation because no matter what, they're just peering right over it anyway, correct?
It's not. I mean, do I think that after they do this grading, they're going to want to plant some vegetation? The answer is yes. But that house is only 28 feet off the property line at the corner, 28 to 30. And I never, again, maybe I'm just getting old, but I had a big tree going out of my backyard, just missed my house one time. And I don't like putting anything too big, too close to a house.
Can I share a screen? Can I share a screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to share a screen here. This is what we were asking here because if you look at the ridge of the proposed house is 462.6 elevation. So that is about 30 feet higher than the ground between the property which I'm talking about and this new house. So if you plant this green zone, even 35 feet high tree, which does not have a big root spread, will provide a nice buffer for both of the neighbors. This house, whoever lives in this house will get some kind of screening as well as our lot will get a screening. So this is achievable. I think we need to make a good faith effort because just 434 is the elevation right in the front corner of the house. So 434 and 30 feet tall tree, evergreen, green giant, will definitely provide a solid screening. Otherwise, you will be facing the headlight going into the bedroom or any other windows. So it's not we are asking something which is crazy. It's a very simple thing which benefits both of the homeowners by creating a general screening, and which we have a room, which we have a space, and we are not asking you to plant oak trees or something where the root will spread, go close. We have enough distance. As well as if you see those purple dots, these are the 3 different places I thought the discharges from the roof runoff should go rather than only just one place on the back. Or there are 2 seepage pits side by side, but all 3 will evenly distribute the stormwater runoff rather than discharging at one corner, which is also going to be tough on the neighbor, which is on the downstream.
Is there a question? Is that question being posed to Mr. Page?
The question is, yes, we have a green space we can create without hurting anything.
I'm more than happy to respond on behalf of my client. I do think a row of green giants, about 10 to 12 foot high, at planting would be appropriate, because otherwise the new homeowner in this house is going to be looking at that large wall you saw in the photos. So I don't know this could help our neighbors to the right, but I think it is going to help this house. But I would keep it in that green strip, which looks to be about 8 to 10 feet wide. So a row of, I'm not going to take it out to the street either because that interferes with sight lines. But I would be amenable to having it go from the front of the house and maybe just past the back of the house. So that's number one. Number two is the purple circle on the right-hand side is where we have 2 dry wells. The purple circle in the back left, if you just go a little further left, is a second dry well. He's asking for maybe another dry well or break up the dry wells to have one off the front by the garage.
I'm going to interrupt you because Eileen has indicated that that is a matter that will be dealt with by the engineering
That's
department.
right. Then we'll stop here.
Mr. Simon, are we entering this as an exhibit?
No, we're not.
We are
Because
not, okay.
it was presented as part of a question period.
Okay.
So if the neighbor wishes to present it during the time when it's an opportunity for members of the public, then we'll mark it then.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the screen off.
Yeah. Are there any other questions now for the witnesses?
Only for the architect. Is it possible that we bring down the height of the building as allowed by the book? Or is it specific reason you have to have that height, the roof ridge line?
Well, I'm going to interject here that the applicant has presented their case for why they think they need the height variance, and the board will decide that.
Okay.
And you will have the opportunity to speak and give testimony at the appropriate time as to why you may disagree with that.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the public who has a question for any of the witnesses?
There is no one.
There's one more?
No more, no.
No more, okay. All right, now's the time when members of the public will have an opportunity to present testimony to the board. Is there anyone who would like to do that?
Can I say one more thing to what I said before?
No, now is the time to give testimony. You have to be sworn first.
Okay.
So, Mr. Kadawala, do you wish to provide commentary testimony with regard to this application?
I do.
Okay, so why don't you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Simon, point of order, if he's going to give testimony as an engineer, should he be qualified as such?
I'm just getting him sworn first.
Okay.
All right. So why don't you start? Why don't you state your name, spell your name, and provide your address, please?
Srinath J. Kodawala, SHRINATH, J KOTDAWLA. I'm a PhD and PE in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah,
Since
I asked you just what's your address?
54 Oakland Mills Road, Manalapan, New Jersey, 07726.
So Mr. First correctly inquired as to your qualifications. So why don't you provide the board with your qualifications in terms of license, profession, affiliation, and your experience testifying?
Okay. I'm a professional engineer in New Jersey since 1999, and I'm associated with Kashi Consulting Company, which is a land use engineering company.
You want to spell that name, please?
KASHI Consulting Company, Inc. And my office is located in Monroe Township, New Jersey. And I do practice land use engineering since 1995. And I've been in front of the board, planning board, in 5 years back for the same the house next door, which is where I'm talking about. On the right, I was in front of.
So have you been qualified as an expert witness in the field of engineering before planning boards and zoning boards in the state of New Jersey, including Millburn?
Yes. And I have testified on multiple boards in the state of New Jersey.
And your license remains in good standing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Do you have testimony you would like to give in this case?
Yes, it's more of like a comments kind of mode. I would prefer 2 rows of trees planted as I showed on a green strip before.
Okay, Mr. Kadawala, do you want to do a screen share?
Sure.
With regard to the exhibit that you showed before, and we can
Yes.
mark it to be part of the record?
Okay.
Now again, this has not been provided to Ms. Davitt to date? Sir?
No, this is the,
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark this O1.
okay. And I'll email this to the township for a record.
Okay, you'll provide it to Ms. Davitt.
Yes.
So it appears, just to cut to the chase a little bit, that this is this is a portion of Mr. Page's site plan that you have colored to reflect a 20-foot strip, landscaping strip along the right-hand side of the plan.
That's correct.
Okay, and you also depict with purple dots what I assume to be 3 dry wells.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll assume that this will be marked for identification as O1. So
That's fine.
you can proceed.
Okay. And the other thing is, whenever the grading happens very close to the retaining wall, which my client has, Dr. Shah, we would like to see that whenever you make a cut or discharge a large amount of water, you want to be sure that our wall does not get undermined or the ground doesn't get soft below the wall. So I would like to see that Mr. Page or someone else can just do a rough analysis and submit analysis to township and give us a copy that, hey, they have checked it, and whatever the alteration and seepage pit is doing right next to our wall will not affect the strength and stability of the wall, existing wall. That is the reason I was trying to see if that can be moved away a little bit, because that much amount of seepage going at the bottom of wall can create some structural issues with these are segmental block walls, Allen block walls. It's not a concrete wall. So I would like to see that they can provide us a calculation, not to us, even township engineer, and see that, tell us it's going to be stable. This will not affect the stability of our wall, which is in existence there.
Eileen,
Yes.
do you view this as a matter, that last matter, as a matter for the township engineering department?
I would defer that to Martha Callahan and her department, as far as, I don't know that this board would really be the entity that would speak to, guaranteeing, the integrity of their wall.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's it. I have no other comments or testimony.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask this witness a question or two?
Sure, absolutely.
Sir, my name's Jim. I represent Mr. Papalolo here at 132. The property to the right, you said that you were involved as the civil engineer in that matter?
Yes, yes.
And you testified before this board when that was approved?
Yes, I did a plot plan for and a seepage pit design for the house.
And did you design this retaining wall?
No.
Okay. Do you know who did design the retaining wall?
I know the engineer who designed it.
Okay. Were there variances required when that application next door was put forth?
I don't remember. There used to be an old house. This was a replacement of a house.
But you put the site plan together, right?
Yes, yes. But it
Did
was
you recommend
13 or 14. I have to go back and see those details, but I can definitely do that.
Okay. Did you recommend any plantings on your lot that would have protected the proposed neighbor from view of this wall or from view of your client's home?
We did not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who has any testimony they would like to give to the board in the audience?
Sir, you have to stop your screen share.
I mean, Mr. I do not see your hand raised.
I'm sorry, Eileen, I didn't hear that.
I do not see anyone with their hand raised in the audience.
Okay, fine. All right, Mr. First, you have a sum up you'd like to give?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. And I also just want you to know, Mr. Papalolo and Mr. Benitez are here. I didn't hear any questions from the board, but they're here if the board has questions or wants to hear from them. But in summation, this is very similar to the application that this very board approved. I don't know how many of you were members then, but you saw it fit to be fitting of the neighborhood at that time. I think based on the progress of the market and some retweaks by the architect, it does appear to be a better designed home, more architecturally pleasing, both interior and exterior. I appreciate the steep slope issues. I think you guys are very familiar with that all over town. We're really just asking for what we basically asked for in 2017, and hope that you see the same wisdom that you had at that point to approve this application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Steinberg, I do see someone who has since raised their hand as Mr. First began speaking.
All right, I don't want to cut anyone off.
Okay.
So let's bring that person in.
Okay.
Hello. So would you like to provide some testimony in regard to this application? You have to unmute yourself.
I'm Dr. Mehul Shah. I'm the owner of 128 Hartshorn Drive.
Okay, hold on a second. Can you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to be giving this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, please state your name, spell your name, and provide your address, please.
Mehul, M-E-H-U-L, Shah, S-H-A-H, 128 Hartshorn Drive, Short Hills.
Thank you.
So the comment I have is this: the Google picture, which was shown by Mr. First, showed a lot of trees towards my property. All those trees are gone right now. There is nothing green left between that property and both sides of the property. Right, the left, which is 132, and 128 is mine. So there are all the trees were taken down, and they were quite big trees. And if anybody drives by that property right now, you can see that very distinctly.
Well, I have a question for you. Were those trees on your property or Mr. Papalolo's property?
No, they were not on my property, but the trees were huge size. I mean, big size trees. They were not on my property, no.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other board members have questions of this witness?
Yes, sir, could you give us an indication as to when you think those trees were removed?
Within last 3 to 6 months.
Thank you.
Joe, I have one quick question also.
Sure.
How many trees do you have on your side of the property over there?
I have, you can count, but I have towards the bottom of the property, there are quite a few. Along
no, I'm talking towards the wall, where the wall is. How many trees are by the wall?
They are towards the wall. There are quite a few. I don't remember exact number, but there are quite a few, definitely, because I have a huge wall, which was, we replaced the existing old wall.
Mr. First, do you have any questions you'd like to ask this witness?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Any other board members have questions?
Yeah, Joe, I have a question. So we've seen the boundary with 128 Hartshorn Drive.
Correct.
there was no testimony given for the house on the other side, on the left. Is there any plan for similar kind of efforts on the other side, so that that house is also not impacted by this development?
Who's that a question for?
Mr. Page or anyone else who wants to take it?
Well, this is Mr. Page. I'm not quite sure what you mean by impact.
So both in terms of the slope, the water runway, and also the screening. So if you've removed the trees, how is the house on the left going to be screened? I know there's nobody asked that question, but I'm just wondering. We talked about the house on the right, but what about the house on the left?
Right. So again, based on my recollection being there this past Saturday, there is screening in or about that particular home to the left. Whether it's on their property or on Mr. Papalillo's, I'm not quite sure. However, you know, on that side of the, well, yeah, in fact, actually, you can see the wall and you can see a lot of landscaping. So that landscaping, so if you look at the back of the picture, that's a wall in the backyard, and that's landscaping on top of that wall. So that's for our neighbor to the left. You also see, as you move closer towards the street, you see the big tree, and then behind that, you see a smaller wall. That landscaping already exists on that neighbor's property. So we're not disturbing anything over there. We are disturbing what was formerly a lawn area, because that area has been disturbed in there. So we're basically going to build a house in there, and then there'll be lawn in between Mr. Papalillo's new house and the existing property to the left. So it'll be a lawn. It'll be basically a lawn. Now, again, I would never want to say that no one's going to install some landscaping as part of this plan, because that's typically just like you pick out your kitchen, you paint your rooms, you know, doing landscaping around the house. The issue here is that it doesn't require a buffer from a single family house to a single family house. We're not buffering parking lots. We're not buffering apartment buildings. This is one single family house next to another single family house. So typically the builder will do some landscaping as part of his construction. We don't specify here because, again, it's not like we're trying to hide something here. It's one house next to another house. And these are pretty good sized lots. You know, these are more than a half-acre size lots.
Yep, yeah, I'm aware of the lot.
Just a quick check, Mr. Page, you mentioned that you saw the property this past weekend. This image that was just shared moments ago is from a Google capture like 2013. It was just underlined right there. Is that still current? Just checking.
The picture's not current. As a matter of fact, if you recall when I first saw the picture, I said, I don't know where you're looking here because, you know, I don't see all those trees. There's a big excavation. There's a big excavation on this property.
So those trees don't exist anymore. Is that the current situation, or is that how it looks right now in the picture?
Again, I went there more to, I had my plans, and I'd been there, like I said, about 4 years or so ago with Mr. Papalillo. And I went there more to make sure that it looked, you know, consistent with what I remember saying a number of years ago. And it's, you know, it's a construction site. It's under construction. You know, they started and I guess they stopped, and, you know, for whatever reason, market conditions, whatever. But it's a rugged piece of property. There's no getting around that.
Mr. Chairman, so we're clear, applicant one the photographs were photographs of the retaining walls. You note they were very limited in terms of the actual site. Those were photographs put forth by the applicant for purposes of showing the retaining walls on each side of the property and nothing further.
Can I ask the applicant's attorney, is it fair to say that any trees that were removed were done in consultation with the town forester, and that any regulations that had to be adhered to in terms of replacing trees that were removed is also in compliance with the town forester?
Correct. Whatever obligations my client had with regards to applying for tree removal or tree replacement, he has or will comply. They have or will comply.
Okay, thank you.
All right, board members, I'd like to get some feedback from you as to whether you want to proceed to a vote tonight. The next door neighbor
I'll
has
go
asked,
first. What? Sorry?
the next door neighbor has asked for some trees to be, or landscaping to be planted to shield this property from his. Do you want to proceed to a vote, ignoring that request?
Yes. I think the request for trees, that's the neighbor's responsibility. If he wants to protect his view of the neighbor's house, then he's got to plant his own trees.
Anyone else on the board have anything they want to say about that?
I agree with that. That we're not talking about a tennis court or a new swimming pool or some kind of structure that, wasn't there before. It's a house. I don't have any trees between my house and my neighbor's house. And if I wanted some kind of blockage, I'd have to go ahead and plant my own trees. That seems reasonable.
All right, board members, I get the sense that you'd like to proceed to a vote tonight. We have four variances that are requested by this applicant. Three of them similar to the variances, maybe even identical to the variances that were granted by resolution that is in your packet from February of 2017. And a fourth being the steep slope variance. And the testimony tonight was that there would be disturbance of steep slope in excess of 1,000 square feet. I seem to recall that it was around 1,600 square feet, maybe a little more.
16, I think it was more like 16,000.
Pardon me?
I have disturbing 16,700 square feet of slopes.
Maybe somebody has a better recollection of the number than I do. I think it was testified to by Mr. Page, as I recall. Mr. Page, can you?
Yes, it's 16,730.
Right, okay. Board members, can I ask for you to give me and the other board members the benefit of your thinking on this application? Craig?
Having sat on this case in 2017, I clearly remember the issues with the lot. I mean, you have a very steep lot here that is a developable lot in town. And unfortunately, in order to, avoid variances is very difficult to do. You have a steep slope disturbance, which is inevitable of building any house on that very steep lot. Your max front wall height, the 4-foot height was not visible from the street, still remains not visible from the street. And then the max building height in the front yard setback is an issue you deal with. The farther you push the house back, you eliminate the front yard setback, you increase your max building height because your lot slopes away. So it's a give and take. Obviously this application was approved. I don't see any conditions worsening. So as far as I'm concerned, I would approve this as submitted.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just add, I agree with Craig. And I also think the minor changes, I remember this from 2017 as well. And I think that the minor changes are actually, a welcome addition to it. I think that they're nice changes. So I support the application as well.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else? Is there a motion in this case?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Who gave the second?
Steve.
Steve.
Craig Plattner,
Yes.
Jyoti Sharma,
Yes.
Joy Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Tober,
Yes.
Wolfgang Katuris,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes, and good luck on the project.
Thank you, everyone. And Miss Devitt, I'll bring those slips into you. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow. We'll see. But by Wednesday, I'll bring you the exhibits as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Hands, show of hands, all in favor.
Bye.
Good night and be safe, guys.
Yep, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
You too.
Yep,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.